The next section we're going to be talking about is running Docker images with Docker. And you'll see that this is about 100 million times easier. So the first thing that we're going to learn how to do is use Docker run. So Docker does quite a few different things for you. But honestly, for most people that I imagine will be taking this course, Docker run is the part that you actually care most about. Most of us probably won't be building containers by hand and managing all that kind of stuff. Typically, a lot of times the ops teams will handle that. And as like developers, you might be more interested in running containers than actually building them. But who knows? I'm not your mom. You can do whatever you want. So we're going to do this. We're going to run a Docker Alpine container. And we've kind of been doing this already, and I've just been kind of like saying, like, don't peek behind the curtain yet. Now we're going to peek behind the curtain. So I'm going to come back here to VS Code. I'm here in Mac OS. And I'm going to say Docker run --interactive --tty. Yep. I can never remember. Run. And then at that point, once you've done this, you can run basically anything that you want to run. In this particular case, I want to run, let's say, Alpine, right? Which is a flavor of Linux. So I'm going to say Alpine. And this is what's coming off of Docker Hub, right? Which is what we were looking at previously. Now I could say Docker run Alpine, and this would implicitly run :latest, right? Which would be the latest version that they've published, right? Now, I'm going to suggest that you never use latest. It's just kind of a foot gun. And in particular, since people will be watching this course later, I'm going to be very explicit about the versions that I'm using because I want these demos to work for you with the code that I've written. So I'm going to say 3.10, which I think is one of the more recent ones. Now, if you haven't installed this or pulled this previously, it'll take a second, say, downloading all these layers, and it'll take a second. I think Alpine, the final image ends up being like, I don't know, 20 some odd megabytes or something like that. And that's the point of Alpine. Alpine is like tiny Linux, right? It has just like the bare bones necessity for like running web servers and stuff like that, and nothing else. And I think we'll get more into that later. There's a whole section just talking about Alpine. But again, you can say cat etc issue, and we can see, welcome to Alpine Linux 3.10. That's expected, given that we asked for Alpine 3.10. Now, this probably seems a little bit easier than what we were doing before, which is like exporting and doing control groups and unshares. This just did all of that for you. So we just spent, I don't know, a couple hours going over what one command does for you. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's honestly what happened. This is a little bit easier to do, right? A little bit easier to remember than all the control groups and unshares and stuff like that. All right, so I'm going to hit exit. That'll exit us out of the container. And again, to remind you, containers are made to be, and the entire idea behind Docker containers in general is that they're made to be spun up and destroyed, right? And frequently do that. The term that we use is they're ephemeral, right? That they don't last very long. So nothing, like when you're dealing with Docker containers, if it's not in the Docker file, just assume nothing is permanent. And that's kind of a good way of thinking. Like, so if you're running a database without a volume, and ignore volumes for just a second, but if you say, if you're running all of your databases with Docker, as soon as you close down those Docker containers, your data goes with it. So you have to like mitigate that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you just a little shortcut because --interactive --tdy, kind of hard to remember. You can just say Docker run -it, right? And what this -it does is it puts you interactively into the container. So if I say Alpine 3.10 again, that's what that -it does. Now if I just say Docker run Alpine 3.10, it's just gonna say, okay. So what it did is it ran Alpine, is like, okay, I did it, and then it finished, right? So that's what the -it is like, no, hold on to it. I want to actually connect to it, right? Now I can say Docker run Alpine 3.10, and I can actually give it a command to execute first before it finishes. So if I say ls, it's going to go in, it's going to run ls, and then it's going to finish. So this is what the ls is of wherever it is in the container, which looks like it's the root, right? So that's what that last part is. And the order here actually is very critical for Docker. So you do Docker, then you do the command, then the next part here, like that has to be all of your flags, right? The -it, the --rm, all that kind of different stuff. And then you put the name of the container, and then everything after the name of the container is whatever you want to run. And again, if you don't put the ls here, the container has some sort of command baked into it, right? And so it'll run that, unless you tell it to do something else. It's the CMD, right, is what they call it. Okay. So just, we can say docker run alpine cat etc issue, right? And you'll see here that this is Alpine Linux. What happens if we change Alpine 3.10 to Ubuntu Bionic? There you go. Has Ubuntu 18.04, right? Which is what we would expect. So you can see here we can swap out anything that we want, as long as it's on Docker Hub or we've built it locally. So I'm going to give you a warning here since I'm thinking about it. It's very easy to get a lot of images on your computer and have Docker take up like 3 gigabytes just in images, right? So I think if you do docker prune images or images prune, docker image prune, that's docker image prune, like that. And that'll clear up, like, if you've been running Docker for a while, this will probably clear up a decent amount of space for you. But again, you'll have to rebuild everything next time that you download it. All right, so still here on the Docker images with Docker, we're going to say Docker run, and we're going to say -it, but we're going to put in this new flag --detach Ubuntu :bionic. And this is going to run something. It's going to spit out the hash, which is the hash of the container that's currently running, and then it completes. But this container is now actually running in the background, and that's what that detach does. It says like, hey, run this, but I don't want to be in the foreground. I want it to run in the background. So now I have a container running in the background. So if I say docker ps, I can see here I actually have 2 running. Oh, I still had that myalpine one running from my previous example, right? So you can see this has been running for 34 minutes. This has been running for 18 seconds. Now I can say docker attach, and then I can just copy and paste that. I didn't give this one a name, so I can't attach any specific name. Well, actually, you can. It gives it one. Stupefied Bratane. I don't even know what that is, but let's do it. So if I do that, this will actually attach me to the running process, right? So now if I say cat etc issue, you can see now I'm inside of Ubuntu. If I exit, it's actually gone now because I told it to exit, right? But I don't want this running in the background because this is just wasting resources in the background, so how do I kill it? Docker kill. I guess I kind of showed my cards on that one. So you can say docker kill, and you can give it the container ID. You can give it the short one. You can give it the long one. The long one looks like that. Or you can give it the name, right? So in this case, I'm going to say docker kill my-alpine. And now if I say docker ps, totally empty. 2 of these things that you've already seen before is if I say docker run -it, you see me put name here, right? So like I did my-alpine, right? The reason why is I wanted to be able to reference that later, right? So if I say alpine 3.10, now if I go back to my other running thing here, if I say docker ps, you can see here that it has the name of myalpine. This just makes it easy later to reference, right? So now I can say docker kill my-alpine. Now my issue here, if I try to do this again, it's going to say, I can't do that. That one's already in use. Why is that? Well, I can actually still look at the Docker logs of my Alpine. It keeps it around because it assumes like, you know, I don't want to throw anything away here. This is obviously garbage, it doesn't matter, right? But if it had like a long list of things, it keeps those logs around just in case you want to check them afterwards. And there's a bunch of like introspection you can do after the fact that that container has completed. In this case, obviously, this is garbage. I don't want it. So I'm going to say docker remove my Alpine. So now it's thrown everything away that it was using that for, and now I can go back and do that again, and it would run Docker Alpine this time.
So when you use kill, you just stop the process. You just stop the container, but then this is how you remove it entirely.
Right. It removes all like the post metadata and all that kind of stuff that it kept around for it. That's frequently useful, right? So that's why it does that by default. But in this particular case, I'm just creating and destroying containers, and I want to reuse that name quickly. So if I just put --rm here, it'll remove everything once it's done, right? So if I do this, exit, and I can run it again, now I can keep doing that quickly. And so that's what --rm is. You'll see me do that a bunch because I'm lazy and I don't want to type docker rm afterwards, and I forget all the time.